Let's answer the question, should Christians go on short-term missions trips? Now, many churches send missions trips all over the world every single year. They send teams to places as close as Mexico, and they send them as far away as places in the Far East. Now, this costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money to buy plane tickets, to stay in hotels, to buy food for teams of 10 or 20 or 30, and it costs a lot of money to provide resources to do projects for missions teams. And so many people ask themselves, well, is it really worth it to go on a missions trip? Is it really worth the money? Would it be better off if none of us went on missions trips and we just sent all the money overseas to build buildings and do projects? And I appreciate that. I understand those questions. I understand why you might think that way, and I've asked those questions myself. But it's important to understand that when you go on a missions trip, it's not just about the money that you're contributing or that you would have contributed had you not gone on the trip, but it's about you being personally there. And I've been told this all sorts of times by people on the ground when I've gone on missions trips, but I recently received a letter from one of the children that my family sponsors in Uganda. We have a partner, a missions partner that we have in Uganda, and we sponsor two young women. We help pay for their education and some other living expenses. And recently we received this letter, and I'll share the letter with you here on the screen. But the letter basically talks about how this young woman, she was living on this basically missionary compound, missions compound, and she was hearing about God. But although she was learning about God, she didn't really believe in Jesus. She didn't really believe in God. Her life wasn't really changed by God. In fact, it wasn't until our church started sending teams that we'd spend a lot of time with these kids, and we would share with them our life stories. We would share with them how Jesus changed our lives. And because she heard how Jesus changed our life, all of a sudden, for the first time, Jesus became real to her. And as she says there, not only she, but her entire family has grown closer to God and have put their faith in Jesus. And I'm not saying that we should get credit for that. I'm not saying that my church, we're such great people that we should get credit for that. But it's amazing how God used us being physically present in her community to communicate the love of Jesus. And so I guess if you ask me, should Christians go on mission trips? I'd say yes. Because as important as money is, and even as important as prayer is, there's nothing that replaces being physically present with someone and showing them the love of God. Even if you don't speak the same language, there's nothing like being physically present there. And so I hope that many of you will take the opportunity to go on a missions trip to share the love of God with someone else in another country, in another language, and that you'll continue to pray for and support short-term missions through your local church.